The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And on last week's show, we talked about women's track and field. And on tonight's show, we're going to flip it and talk about the men's track and field program for this year, already in the midst of their indoor season, and also previewing the outdoor season coming up pretty closely here. So please join me after the break, where I'll be joined by tonight's first guest, Assistant Coach Joe Reed.
What makes D3 special is the ability to participate in my team and within the broader community.
The perfect ending to a perfect season.
Being a D3 student athlete has completely expanded my life.
I learned how to lead. I really found a voice.
What time is it?
It's more about the experience rather than just a sport itself.
Without the experience of being a Division III student athlete, I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
NCAA Division III. Discover, develop, dedicate.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is Assistant Men's Track and Field Coach Joe Reed. Welcome to the show, Joe.
How you doing, Jeff?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I recently graduated from SUNY Oneonta in May of 2009. I ran track here for 4 years. I was a music industry major. As far as track and field is concerned, I was a 7-time All-American. I was a national champion in the 4x4 relay with Eric Thies, Sean Daly, and Fred Romer. I was involved in a few clubs here and there, music industry club, the audio production club. And now, I'm back here coaching, and it's a great experience.
Well, certainly, just to let everybody know, the 7 All-America honors for you is certainly put you right there. We've only had one other male athlete, and that was back in the 1960s, a swimmer who garnered that many All-America honors, so you're in pretty select company. I mean, there's only 2 of you, so certainly congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's been great that we've been able to have 3 out of the 4 on the show now, with you appearing here on Inside Red Dragon Sports to talk about your national championship and such. And,
right.
And maybe someday we'll get to do a reunion show, and we'll get Fred Romer back here, and we'll do all, for you guys, have you in studio, because it certainly was a great accomplishment, so congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Well, let's first, before we start talking about the coaching part of it, being a new coach, a young coach, talk about your overall athletic experience here. I mean, when you came in from high school, obviously, you were a football and track all-star type athlete. When you came here, did you ever think that you would accomplish the things that you did?
It's actually funny because when I was looking at coming to this school, I would look up some of the times, and I thought to myself at the time, I could break that record, I could do this, and I could qualify and go to nationals. And then when I came here, and we had our first meet at Cornell, and I was a freshman, I was scared, and I actually didn't even make finals in the 60-meter dash. So that was a good thing for me, because it was a good shock to kind of make myself realize, okay, you're not going to be a big dog right away. It's going to take some time and some patience and hard work and dedication. So when I came here, I really just wanted to get better. I wanted to run as fast as I could, improve my times the best I could. And I really didn't set out any particular goals as far as being an All-American or winning nationals or even going to nationals, honestly. I just came here with the mindset of just go, be receptive to what the coaches have to say, understand that they're here to get you better. And so I guess the rest is history after that.
Right. Now, certainly that commitment and dedication in both ends, because certainly in our track and field program, the academic side of it is just as important as the athletic side. Can you talk about maybe how you were able to manage your time and be able to excel at both?
Well, we used to have meetings with the coaches all the time, and they would discuss time management and how to do things well. And it was a big switch for me coming out of high school, coming in here and having to focus more on academics and and really learning to manage your time wisely and make sure you have enough time for practice, enough time to do homework and study and things like that. So it was very important for me to do school work and to be able to go to practice and do well as well. So, you know, I actually would sit down and try to use the athletic planners that we get in the beginning of the year and just plan out everything I'm going to do for, you know, weekly and monthly, and make sure that I had enough time to do everything I needed to do. So.
Now, working with your teammates, certainly, how helpful was it to be able to work in a group? I mean, obviously you'd be running and working out with you know, Eric Thies and some of the other guys we had at that time, who were all SUNY champions as well. I mean, how was that? How did that work?
We always talk about it now as coaches. It's funny, but we always talk about team camaraderie. And the guys I ran with in high school, you know, they're my best friends till this day. But the guys I ran with here, it's a total different dynamic. I've never met a group of guys that I'm closer with. I mean, we all clicked right away. I mean, Fred, he was a year younger than us, so that was a little different for him. But when he came along, I mean, he clicked right away with Eric and myself. And it was a really great experience too. Eric and I roomed together all the time at track meets, so it was a great experience to have a guy like that who's so hardworking and dedicated his 4 years of college life to running track and getting better. And it was a pleasure to be able to run with someone like that, and to compete with him and sometimes against him in certain races and things like that, and to practice with him, and he would push me and I would push him. And you know, we're both back here assistant coaching, and it kind of comes natural to us because, you know, when we were athletes, we would talk to each other and help each other out, you know, coach each other essentially sometimes as well, and just say, hey, you know, you're not doing this, you got to do this. And when it came to off the track stuff, you know, it's, hey, are you getting your work done? Are you spending the right amount of time in the library? Are you eating right? Are you getting enough sleep and things like that? So it was great to have a group of guys like that who could keep you in check.
Right. Now the training regimen here is certainly you know, I mean, it's pretty structured, but it needs to be structured in order to keep people kind of on the path to, you know, success, because we have had so much success in our track and field program.
Right.
How do you think, for yourself, how did that help you get better?
When I came here out of high school, my high school program was very similar as far as the structure. But when I came here, a lot of the stuff that we focused on was stuff going off the track, eating right, getting enough sleep, stuff that you don't actually think about when you're in high school. Right. So the transition from eating whatever I wanted and coming here and saying, okay, I need to get this amount of protein and limit this and not eat cookies or pasta, you know, when I see it in the dining hall, it took a lot of patience and dedication to doing that, and just reminding yourself constantly, you know, doing these things off the track will help you get better on the track, and understanding that it's necessary to do those things to perform well. So, and like I said, you know, when you have a guy like Eric Thies who's so hardworking and so dedicated, it was easier for me to be able to, you know, keep in check and do those things right.
Now, so you know, you and Eric were in the same class, so you guys were really half the relay that went to the nationals, and of course now you've got, you know, we had Sean Daly and Fred Romer, who were a year apart. Fred was older than Sean. Did you guys have open tryouts to see who was going to join you on that team, or did they just emerge as the two guys?
Yeah, certainly by our senior year for Eric and myself. You know, obviously it was the two of us that were definitely going to be on the relay, and Fred was also kind of a person who solidified his spot. And so really was that fourth spot that was kind of wide open there for a little while. And all we did during indoor was we had a group of guys, I think there was about 2 or 3 of them, who we said, you know, let's go to these meets and you'll run, you know, like the 500 and the open 400 and things like that. And, you know, whoever runs the fastest time, you know, they'll earn their spot in the relay. And Sean Daly, he proved day in and day out, meet in and meet out, that he was the fastest guy and that he deserved to be in the relay. So that's kind of how we figured that out.
Now, when you guys, you know, the journey to nationals and being there, and certainly, did you guys think you were going to win? You had the fastest time going in, which obviously puts you in a favorite spot. But as you know, being a favorite isn't always the best thing.
Very true.
How did you handle that whole experience?
I think we all handled it pretty well, and I think it was relatively easy. because we didn't even qualify until ECACs, which was the weekend before nationals. So that #1 spot really only lasted for a week, and so it was easy for us to handle. I don't think we put too much pressure on ourselves. I think especially with leaders such as Eric and myself, we kind of knew going into nationals. We had been there already a couple times, and we knew that it's just a track meet, honestly. And you see some of those guys at different meets throughout the year. And so we went in there with the understanding that it's just another track meet, and we tried to make sure that Fred, and especially Daly, his first time being there, just try to have him understand that it's not that serious, it's not the end of the world, and just understanding to be confident in your ability to run fast. And if you just go out there and you perform how you practice, then we'll be fine.
Now, of course, the day before, Eric, had the misfortune of being disqualified from the 400, which he was the top seed in that event as well. So you guys had to kind of do a quick kind of recovery, get them back, motivated and focus back on that event. I mean, how was that, for the you three guys, and obviously Coach LaPiccola was out there with you as well. How did that work?
Well, as you probably know, he was pretty upset after being disqualified. And we kind of just rallied behind him and told him, we had the understanding that it wasn't his fault. It was very misfortunate that that happened. But, we rallied behind him and just told him it's not your fault, and we're here to do another job. You still have a job to do. Right. And like I said, because of Eric's character, he understood that he had a job to do, and obviously being the fastest leg in the relay, he understood that he really needed to show up and do well. And I think he also used that as a motivational tool, being disqualified. And so when we went and it was time for us to compete, I mean, he
was ready.
He was ready, and if you ever watch the video, there's quite a gap between him and the person that's coming in second place.
Right,
so
and it wasn't getting any smaller.
It wasn't getting any smaller.
Now, that kind of winning experience, being a national champion, now you're a coach. How do you think that helps you not only with credibility, because obviously a young coach, you all want to try and show yourself and earn respect of the athletes. How do you think that helps you be able to kind of motivate the student athletes that are in our program now?
I think it just gives me another tool to reach out to them kind of on their level. I try to make them understand that the hardest part of nationals, at least how I feel about it, is just getting there. Right. Once you're there, you just have to give yourself a chance to make it to finals, and then if you make it to finals, usually you're an All-American depending on the race. Yeah. And so I just tried to allow them to understand that we got there because we did the small things. We did the little things that I spoke of earlier, off the track, sleeping and eating and things like that. And so, hopefully they can look at me as an example of someone who did things right. And they can say, well, if Coach Reed did those things when he was an athlete and he got this far, maybe I should start doing those things and maybe I can get, this far. So. Right.
Now, you're a teammate, you're a high school teammate of Darrell Cull, who's a senior with us this year. Right. I mean, what kind of a dynamic is that? I mean, you were teammates in high school and you never you were never teammates here. Right. But now you're kind of coaching him because you're a sprint coach. What's that like?
It's funny. He really is a very good friend of mine. He's like a brother to me. And so we have a good time at practice and things like that. The dynamic between he and I is very strong, and we have a very strong relationship. And I've kind of always, when he was at other schools and kind of training on his own, I would help him out, when I was an athlete and things like that. So he's kind of used to taking pointers from me. Okay. So, when we're at practice, it's just like he and I are, practicing on our own usually. So.
Now, do you know how to push his buttons to get him to? I mean, it's important.
We talk about what happened last year at nationals for him to kind of get him going and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I use a couple tools here and there. I don't want to let all my secrets out. Yeah.
Well, certainly looking back on your 4-year experience here at Oneonta, I mean, is there one thing that you could point to that you could maybe tell a prospective student athlete, because now you'll be involved in some recruiting. Right. I mean, what would you tell them about Oneonta?
I would tell them that there's a great atmosphere here for athleticism. I mean, between men's and women's soccer, both going into SUNY this year, #1, and the women's and men's basketball team playing very well right now. All the success that the track and field teams have had. there is a great environment for athleticism here at Oneonta, and the coaches work so hard to try to make their athletes better, and so I mean that's what I would say to a student athlete is just coming here. I haven't seen anybody come here in any sport and get worse.
Right.
And so I think if they come here and they learn to manage their time well, and are dedicated for 4 years, I mean it's only 4 years out of your life to be dedicated to a sport, and to think about it 24/7, and to try to get better every single day at that sport. I think they would enjoy their time here.
Well, we certainly, again, congratulations on all the success you had, and we're certainly glad that you're back here influencing future All-Americans. Yeah. And we'd like to thank you for coming by tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank Joe Reed for coming by this evening. And certainly after the break, I'll be joined in studio by senior Nick Pampina.
WUOW 104.7 FM is the region's premier radio station, offering award-winning programming from National Public Radio and Pacifica Radio Networks, giving you the chance to become more informed about the arts, information, and entertainment from around the country and around the world. WUOW is your community radio station. Join us and support the sound.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now is super senior Nick Pampina. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, actually, welcome back, because last year we had you on, well, not last year, but we had you on during cross-country season during our first season.
Yep.
So certainly welcome back.
Thanks a lot.
When we say super senior, it's because you lost your track and field season last year to an injury.
I did. I got hurt at the end of cross-country, so I got lucky enough to come back and run indoor and outdoor this year. So.
Right, you have two full seasons, which certainly is helpful for our squad as a leader, because we knew you were a leader for our cross-country program. What's it like to be a leader within our track and field program?
It's really great. Being away for a year, it actually gave me a lot of time to develop and just see the team from an outside perspective. And coming back now, I see the things I might have done wrong in the past, and now I could progress as a leader in the future. So it's really good, and it's fulfilling, being a leader and helping kids out.
Right. Now, do the younger kids come to you and ask you about training?
Yeah. Most of them do, and it's been great. Yeah.
Now, do you see yourself as maybe, we had Joe on earlier, maybe a coach down the road of cross country or track?
I would love to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, you came back from your injury. What was the rehab process like?
I was in a boot for 10 weeks. I had a stress fracture in my right foot. I actually had 3. And then I just started running again, running a lot of miles.
Now, did you have any, 3, stress fractures in one leg or whatever. Did you think you might be able to come back as strong as you would, or you were before, or?
Yeah, I didn't let it bother me. I always knew that you could rebound off these kind of things. You'll come back just as strong, as long as you put in the work.
Right.
That's what it's about, is putting in the effort and staying confident in your abilities.
Right. Now, certainly we know you did put in the work, because, during the fall season, you were able to run unattached during some of our cross-country home meets, and certainly you looked looked in pretty good shape there.
Thanks.
So I know that it's carried in, and now we're getting into the crunch time in the indoor track season, where we're all trying to qualify for nationals, and your event is going to be the
5K.
You're going to try and qualify in the 5K. What kind of a time do you need there?
Provisional is 14:53 or 14:52, so somewhere below that would be great.
Okay, and you've already been able to compete during the season. How many times have you been able to run that this year?
That event I've run twice back in December, just as preliminary races, just getting the rust out.
Right, to see how you do. Now, you also are going to try and we're going to try and put together a DMR, which is a distance medley relay for those people who don't understand the terminology. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that event? What are the 4 legs that you have to run?
There is a 1,200 leg first, which is 3/4 of a mile. 400 leg, which is 1/4 mile, of course. 800 leg, half a mile. A mile leg, which is the last leg.
And that's your leg.
Yep.
Now, we're going to try and, right now, off camera, we were talking about your locking in. We have who running the other legs?
We have Nate at the 12 right now.
Nate Weber.
Yep. Wren at the mile, 400. and Sean Daly at the 800.
Now, you guys are pretty confident that you can get there in that event.
Yeah, very confident. Good group of guys this season.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, of course, Sean Daly, national champion, part of Joe's, that foursome that won the national championship a couple years ago in a different event, which 4x4, where you only had to run the one leg, you know what I mean, of the 2 laps around the track. Most indoor tracks are 200 meters. So you think that you can get there? What kind of, how do you guys work together? We were talking that they don't run it at every meet, so you really have to kind of pick a meet where you think you can go for it, and we're going to try and do it at the Boston University meet.
At BU, big meet, lots of competition, bank track, so it gives this atmosphere where you're just running really fast, and it's usually where we run our best times, so we're just going to go there and try and pop a big time there.
Now, when I was we had Coach LaPiccolo on last week, and he talked about how he sets up the schedule to try and, at this time of the year, we want to try and go to faster tracks. We want to try to get performances. And so you, in your training, like that, the way that the schedule is built, so you've got a fast meet coming up?
Absolutely, yeah. It gives you time to just build your training so you peak at the right time,
Right.
It just gives you time to regiment yourself, get the rust out in the beginning, and get better towards the end.
Right,
so.
And certainly you want to be peaking at the right time. Around this time, February, it's also, conference championship time, and we also compete in the ECAC championship meet, which we've had a lot of success in those. How do you think going forward in some of those events, how do you think our team will do, and maybe yourself individually?
Well, the team right now, we've been talking about it the whole time. That was the goal from the beginning, is we're going to get as many people to qualify for SUNYACs as possible and pack the bus, bring the heat,
Right.
do as good as we could there. So we're hoping to place very high. That's our goal, is just get everybody there and do our talking with our feet. And me, myself, I would like to show up and do something big in a race.
And score some points for the team.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Do my part,
right.
for sure.
It's an individual sport, but each individual has to, like you say, do their part in order to make the team succeed.
Yeah. It's a great part about track and field.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's an individual sport, but it's a great team sport. And we got over 70 athletes, right, combined, men and women, which is our biggest.
Team.
Yeah, it's our biggest teams that we've ever had here. I mean, what's that like for you to see it grow?
It's great. Showing up 5 years ago, the team was not nearly the size, and seeing it now it's great. We're just growing by leaps and bounds, and the talent we're pulling in now is great. Much higher than I've ever seen. So.
Well, and I know that you've been a big part of that because of the success that you've had and your leadership, so we certainly thank you for that.
Thank you.
And we wish you good luck for the end of indoor season, and we certainly hope that continues through outdoor season. So.
Thanks a lot.
Well, thanks for coming by tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, I'd like to thank Nick Pampina for coming by this evening, and after the break, I'll be joined by junior Sean Wren.
What's up? This is my friend Rob from Michigan.
What's up?
He's a teenager.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Woo! Hey, you want to slow down there?
No.
Really? Oh, okay.
What are you doing?
We're shooting a viral video. Hold on, I want to see this. Hey, this is his last 5 minutes on Earth. A little something to Mom? Say something to Mom. How about, goodbye, Mom, sorry.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is junior track and field athlete Sean Wren. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me here.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a junior here, like you just said. I'm a water resource management major. There's not very many of us on campus.
I can't imagine, but that's a pretty interesting major. What are you hoping to be able to do with that?
Anything from spill management, like down in the Gulf where they had that huge spill, anything where I could work with mitigation on that. Or work for a private firm and consult with them on different things like drilling or waste removal and things like that.
Oh, wow. Well, good for you. I mean, that's quite a major.
Hope so.
Now, you've been here for 3 years now. You're a SUNYAC champion. Last outdoor season, you were SUNYAC champion in the 400 hurdles.
Yes, that's correct.
What was that like to kind of, well, not really instant success, but a sophomore? That's usually instant success because a lot of times when you're a freshman, you're just getting used to the whole way things are done. So tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
It was kind of overwhelming at first, but you really have to put it in perspective because that was a real tough meet. The weather there was less than perfect. We had some gusty winds, and it came down to who really wanted to dig the hardest and win that race. So I'm real happy with the way it turned out.
Now, in high school, I was a track and field athlete myself, and hurdles was my event.
Yeah.
And we ran 300. Ours was 330-yard hurdles. I mean, in high school, do they run the 400?
Yeah, I ran the 400 hurdles my senior year of high school.
Okay. I always wanted to. If I did in college, I was thinking about track, and I thought, geez, it would have been nice to try the 400-meter hurdles, but never got a chance to. So certainly, I know how hard an event is because you have to be fast, but you also have to be nimble. You know what I mean, to get over those barriers. And
it's a lot different than the open 4 than people would think.
Right, because you can just all out for 400 meters. But
yeah.
So certainly congratulations.
Thank you
on that, and we hope that as that continues through this year. Indoor, what events do you focus on?
Mainly the 200 and the open 4.
Okay.
And we're hoping to put together a solid 4x4 relay this year, and we'll see how that unfolds in the next couple meets.
Now, of course, we won the, we had Joe Reed on, assistant coach, earlier in the show, talking about his national championship experience in that event, the 4x4. Do you think, is it good to have Joe around, first of all, with that kind of experience and, the national championship experience?
I think having anyone around who's been to that level of competition and succeeded is always helpful with any sport, especially when you have someone who's as knowledgeable as Joe and Eric too. But those guys really help out a lot of practice because they just have all that experience.
Right. Do you think it's something you have to live up to?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. You have those guys around, and you feel like you need to live up to their expectations because they've succeeded, and you feel like you can too.
Right. But now, because you're an athlete, and I know how hard you compete, I think you would think that would be a positive motivator.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
To maybe push a little harder, or, geez, I know I can cut a 10th or another 10th or something like that.
Yeah, especially when you think, oh, well, it's nationals. That's pretty high. But then you think, well, I know guys who've been there, and they've won.
Right.
So it makes it more realistic, and you feel like you can actually get there, and it can be done.
Right, and certainly we know, as I said, that we know how hard everybody does work.
Yeah.
And now, so 200 outdoors, you're gonna it'll be the hurdles again this year. You'll try to defend your outdoor championship.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping to qualify for nationals in the 400 hurdles this year. Last year I hit the provisional mark, but I was still like 26th on the list, I think.
Okay.
But this year I'm hoping to drop some time and actually get to nationals in that event.
Now, people don't understand that even in an event like 400-meter hurdles, that a 1/10 of a second is huge, especially, that could be the difference between being 26th on the list and being like 18th or 15th.
Yeah.
Now, the way you train during indoor season, what kinds of things do you do as far as to prepare you for, ultimately for your outdoor events?
Well, indoors it's mostly training for speed. Okay. Because indoors, that's really what wins the shorter races like the 200 and the 400 because the track's shorter.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a building process where we start out shorter and we build with the 60 and then the 200 and then the 4 indoors. And that type of speed and endurance builds up into the 4 where you can really open it up in those larger tracks.
Now, as we look forward to the rest of the indoor season, we're trying to, like you said, we're trying to put together a relay that can get back to nationals, 4x4. We're coming up on some fast tracks. Which meets do you enjoy competing in the most, or which tracks have you enjoyed competing on during indoor?
Well, for 2 weeks from now, we have the Valentine Day Invitational down at BU, and that's probably one of the most interesting meets we ever go to because it's a huge meet. And there's D1 schools there, professional runners there, and it's a banked indoor track, so there's always really fast times, and that's really a key meet for us in qualifying for these different standards.
Right. Now, the SUNY Championships, of course, last year our men finished 4th in the indoor season. Do we think we can move up 1 spot, 2 spots? I mean, what's the mood of the team and how you think that we're going to approach that meet?
We definitely feel like we can do a lot better this year. We have a bit more depth in different events, so we can cover more spaces and get some more points there. And we feel like as a team we're a lot closer, and that helps a lot when you're motivating your teammates to run better at meets.
Right. Now, and yourself individually, have you already qualified in your events?
Yeah, I've qualified in the 200 and the 400, and we'll see what happens for the next couple of meets and see how I move up and down the list.
Right, because you never know who's seated in those meets until what, a couple days before, right?
Yeah, it gets real close.
Well, we certainly want to thank you for coming by, and we wish you continued success for the rest of this indoor season and throughout the outdoor season. And it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thank you for coming by. And we'd like to thank all our guests for tonight, Sean Wren, Nick Pampina, and assistant coach Joe Reed for a very delightful evening of talking about men's track and field. Again, we'd always like to remind you that you can find out all information about Oneonta State Athletics at www.oneontaathletics.com. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week on Inside Red Dragon Sports.